Here's the deal. The Christian entrepreneur seeks God's special wisdom, insight, strength, and direction so they can be fully alive and they can build a business that matters and makes a difference. So from time to time, we're going to have gentlemen and ladies who can come forward and as Christian entrepreneurs share a little bit of that wisdom, insight, strength, and direction with us. And indeed, as promised, as I said, this program, the Christian Entrepreneur Network, the Jesus Entrepreneur Experience, and by the way, we're going to have a lot more radio programs that you can actually do yourself. We're going to teach you how to do that. But the Jesus Entrepreneur Experience is, are you an entrepreneur? Do you think there's some stuff we can learn in the life of the master entrepreneur? And I have a guest today. And Chal, I'm going to tell you a funny story, so please laugh, okay?
You bet. Happy to.
Okay. You understand this. You've been a Sunday school teacher. Well, one day, the story goes, this pastor told me that a lady said that she went to her son as they were coming out of church, and she said, well, what did you learn in Sunday school today? And he looked up and said, we learned about the three wise guys.
Out of the mouths of babes.
That's right. And, of course, the pastor was smart enough to take up on that when he heard that little delightful story and said, that's our problem today. We need some wise men and women, but we've got wise guys. And isn't it interesting that the exact opposite of a wise man or woman is probably a wise guy?
True.
Well,
all true.
I remembered that story for years, and I always think about it. The problem is we have wise guys, not wise men and women. Well, Chal, I've learned from our relationship together that you're one of the wise men and women. And
thank you.
I appreciate your fellowship, your friendship, and working together, and you're going to be one of our regular teachers because you not only have some experience with money, but more importantly with life. And I asked you just to think about that concept of God's special wisdom. That might be nice to have. And you said, okay, Stan, I've got some thoughts on that. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm seeking to make my life and business work, and do you have some God's special wisdom that's come to you that you might be able to share with us today?
You bet. I'd be happy to. I got a couple different things that I've been thinking about, anticipating in our conversation. So I guess it all starts with, I decided at one point in my life to become a full-time Christian and not do something different on Sunday than Monday through Saturday, and really take my beliefs through all the things I did as an entrepreneur, a financial advisor, as a father, as a member of the community, and so forth. And, Stan, over the years, I have come to, love the New Testament and some of the stories and trying to think about how it applies to my life. So, for example, you take the parable of Peter walking on the water, okay? As an entrepreneur, you got to step out of the boat. You can't stay where it's safe. You got to step out and move forward. He had to focus. As long as he kept his sights on Jesus Christ, he was able to walk. But as soon as all the wind and the waves and everything started to distract him and he lost his faith, he sank. But yes. Christ was there. Christ was there to save him. So, I think, as an entrepreneur, we have to step out of the boat and do some things that might be uncomfortable or we're not sure about, but we got to focus on what that goal is and how it's going to work and have the faith. So that's one story that has always kind of struck me. There's another one, the story of the Good Samaritan. I'm sure everybody knows that, where Samaritan was on his travels and comes across this poor guy who was beat up and robbed, etc. But the thing that always struck me as an entrepreneur is, number one, help those in need. It's not just the wealthy people from a financial advisor standpoint. It's help the community and see what's going on and help those who need advice. But also that Samaritan didn't just, pick him up and set him on his way. He went the extra yard and took him to an inn. He paid the innkeeper. He stayed with him as long as he could. He paid some extra money and said, I'll repay whatever is needed upon my return. So, he went the extra mile. And I think as an entrepreneur, those are two important things. Help the world, but also go the extra mile in your service and so forth. And people will remember you. And then,
okay.
And then the third thing I often think about, we're coming up the end of the year. Hopefully all our businesses are growing and so forth. We have to learn to delegate. So Christ came with his message. He found 12 apostles to go help him spread the message. And when they got too busy doing that, he founded 70 others to help the day-to-day work.
Yes.
So, delegation is incredibly important, and he led by example with that particular. So I always kind of have to chuckle or smile as I'm reading through the scriptures and I find a story or something, and I go, oh, how's that apply to my business? And I'm always pleased to put that into, my value system and work in my business. So those are just a couple thoughts as I've enjoyed this path.
Wonderful. That's exactly what we're talking about. Just a couple things that struck me also. Just the other day, it was mentioned on one of the programs in the tribute to President George Bush that he was an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
And the term that has been used is, if you're an entrepreneur, you're an adventurer. And the story of Jesus, Peter, step out of the boat. Whose idea is that?
That's right. That's right. It doesn't make a lot of sense.
And if you would have looked back at the boys and say, I'm going to step out in the boat, everybody would have said, you're crazy. And George Bush said when he told his family he was going to go to Midland, Texas, guess what they told him?
He was crazy.
He was crazy.
Yeah.
And so often that is the message of God. Do something crazy. Take an adventure. And, you're liable to fail the first one or two times. But guess what? I'll grab you anyhow.
Yeah. Well, just take this little example of you and I having a conversation, and the ability to do this and record it and get it out and so forth is brand new technology. I was doing some webinars yesterday on social media, and there's all these apps that help you work with social media. Didn't exist 2 years ago or even a year ago. But now there are all these tools available to us to tell our stories, to get the word out, and so forth. And, I can't imagine how quickly Christ's message could have gotten out if he had all these tools, but now he has us. And so we've got to spread that message through our work, through our community, through our families, and so forth. But things are constantly changing, and we need to take advantage of them.
I oftentimes, part of what's been helpful to me, particularly as I've gone up and down, is to believe that Jesus was a little bit of a wise guy. But, I can see him always with a little twinkle in his eye and a smile and kind of a remark, and they'd come up, oh, Jesus, when you leave, what's the plan? And he says, you're the plan.
That's right. That's exactly right.
There's a part of me that, even when you think about Pilate, Pilate said, "Are you a king?" And he looks at him and says, "You said it."
Right.
Right.
And, Pilate was an interesting guy, that's for sure,
Oh, he
representing
was.
Rome and so forth. And he was in a tough position between his citizens and Rome and keeping control and so forth. So, I remember as I grew up, he was always this terrible bad guy. And, true, he turned, Jesus over to the crowd, but there wasn't much else he could really do politically. I suppose he could have really stood up and done something, but he was definitely in a tough pickle. I blame much more the Sanhedrin and Pharisees than I do Pontius
And
Pilate.
Jesus didn't make it easy for him either,
No.
by mouthing off. In some ways too.
Right?
Yeah. If Jesus would have given him a little mea culpa or something like that. But he didn't, because he knew what the plan really was. And I oftentimes say Pilate asked one of the great questions, what is truth? But he also made one of the greatest pronouncements when he said, "Behold the man." That's right.
Yeah.
That's the man. Hey, that is so helpful. And in terms of the Good Samaritan, there's a part of me that likes that idea that say, okay, all right, what can I do that will not only do good, but will be a little bit amazing? And certainly, we pick the guy up, we take him in, put him in the inn, and people say, "Oh, what a great man! He's a good man to do that." But then he offers to do what?
That's right. To pay for his care, and as he heals himself, and pay whatever he needs to when he comes back. And so,
And can you see? And he's a Samaritan. Can you see the look on those Jewish innkeepers who say,
oh,
"What?
Right?
Who is this?"
Right. I just, I don't know. I'm sure all of us have experienced a similar instance in our lives with different issues in society. And I remember in high school, we had just, one black guy in the high school, and he and I were great friends. We played on the same position on the baseball team and so forth. And every once in a while, everybody would ask me and go, what's the deal? What's going on here? He's not like us. I'm going, sure he is. We have a great time together. Go get to meet him. Go ask him. Go spend time with him. And I think, we've all experienced things like that where we learn something new. I belong to an interfaith group here. So on a monthly basis, we meet with, there's a Buddhist monk, there's an Episcopalian, there's a Center for Spiritual Living, all the different denominations. And as we talk, we all share the same problems, even though we may come at the scriptures from a different angle. There's a rabbi in there, and it's just been amazing to me to see how much alike we are, all children of God, and all trying to serve the community in different ways. So I think over time we've learned.
I'm going to grab a take-home for you right there. Okay.
Good.
I hadn't heard that word used before, so I'm going to grab it and steal it from you, okay?
You're welcome to it.
We all have the same problems.
Yep, we do.
Think about that, entrepreneurs.
Yeah. Entrepreneurs, members of the community, and so forth. We're all, as ministers, we're all very concerned about the youth and how connected they stay to their faith and so forth. We're all concerned about the community that we belong to and who belongs to us, and how to keep them engaged so we can all help. As entrepreneurs, we all have concerns, and I've found through entrepreneurial groups that I belong to, you sit down and start talking about, I don't know, how your books are kept or how employees or whatever the deal is. You just sit down and talk and build those relationships. You're going to go a lot farther in your success as an entrepreneur than staying at home inside your four walls and fretting.
You know, one of the men who was one of my first performance coaching clients was very much in the same industry you were in. And I remember he looked at me one time and he said, Stan, you have to understand that what the people buy from me, they think is insurance.
Correct.
And he said, and I sell a bunch of it. He says, but what they don't know is that they really buy me and the fact that I care about them and I've got a little extra wisdom besides insurance.
Yeah. And, you know, Stan, those are my favorite days when we get off the commodity conversation and on to the relationship piece. And then, you know, my clients will say, you know, I never thought I'd be having this conversation with you. Or I'm sure glad you're around because I can give you a call and we can talk about anything. And we're going to end up a little bit ahead. Even if you don't have a specific piece of counsel, you might have a person in your network that you know or whatever else. Those are the rich, smiling, go home and sleep well days. And
more stories we're going to tell. I also had, now you've had this happen because I know you've been in the business long enough. Mm-hmm. Some guru comes around and he says, okay, Chal Daniels, unless someone's got $500,000, don't even think about them, you know? Right. Or someone's got $1 million or 250,000. You've ordered that. And now I kind of imagine, when I think of Chal Daniels, I think I'm going to also imagine a friend of mine, a client, who actually asked me that question. And I knew a little bit about his values. You know, he was a supporter of the Shriner Hospital, and he was very, very, very active in his church. And he said, I think maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll only take clients who have a $250,000. And I said to him, I says, Gary, what if after church on Sunday, some young, kind of funny little geeky kid came up and said, Mr. Gary, I just got $200 in gifts for my first communion, and I've been learning about stocks and bonds in school. Would you help me?
Yep.
And I said, Gary, and what would you say?
Yeah, that's exactly right. But, you know, you go back to this conversation of, you know, bringing Christ and being a Christian entrepreneur. Christ was known to not hang out with the wealthy and all that fun stuff. He hung out with prostitutes. He hung out with lepers. He hung out with fishermen. He hung out with people in need. And so I think that's, you know, part of our challenge as Christian is to serve those in need. I know as an advisor, I can have the greatest effect with that young man you were talking about because I've got time on my side. And turning that $200 into something and forming that young man will really change his life. Somebody comes to me at 60, 65 with $500,000 or whatever, I got very little time to deal with it. Right. Certainly I can help, but I have less time. So you really have to.
And whatever you do, half of the things you do will make them unhappy anyhow.
True.
Oh, my.
Yeah.
Hey, Chal, give us a final word and then promise that you'll be back, okay?
I promise I'll be back. And I really think I would encourage everybody to, you know, take a couple minutes every single day. When I come to my office, I got some scriptures, and I start off by just reading and thinking about what's going on. And it really sets a great tone for my day. And then, you know, it's trite, but, you know, the old arm bracelet or whatever, what would Jesus do when I'm fixed with a problem or something? If I look at it from that angle, it really helps me find a better solution. So being a whole Christian entrepreneur makes my life and decisions a whole lot easier.
Chal, that's what it's all about. Well, Chal, thank you very, very much. You truly are a man of wisdom, insight, truth, and certainly a touch of the Spirit, and you also got a little bit of wit about you. So we're so grateful that you came and shared a little bit of that with us. And so, Chal, you can help people, so tell them how they can reach you, and then you take us out.
You got it, Stan. Well, it's been a pleasure talking with you. I've really enjoyed this. I have a toll-free number if anybody wants to talk to me at 888-894-7514, and a website, which is www.harvest-financial-llc.com. And there's a blog on there, so you can get a little more of my wit and wisdom, if you will. I certainly enjoy writing all that stuff. So it's been a pleasure talking to you, Stan, and I'd like to wish all your listeners very happy holidays and Merry Christmas. And remember, there is a reason for the season, as the saying goes, so let's keep that there and enjoy Christ in this season. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.